Okay, guys, we're gonna get started.
Ooh, yeah. Cool. Can everybody hear me? Cool. All right, sick. We'll get started. We're gonna try to be super respectful of y'all's time, so we'll get through this pretty quick. So, you should be here if you are a desk assistant and you're here for your training. Maybe grab a little pen, little paper, and write down some of the important stuff, and we'll get going. And you're at Regis University. Yeah. Next slide. We'll do it next slide. Cool. So, what are you? You're a DA. And so that means you're a student employee and you're going to work between the hours of like 11 p.m. to 8 a.m. or 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And so you should already know that. If you don't, stay in here after this and we'll get you situated. You're going to get some great work experience through this. You're going to get paid and it's going to be awesome because you're going to get to do your work at the desk while people pass by you. Okay, you're in between. We are the lead RAs, so I'm Austin Sankey, and I'll be the lead RA in the RVs. And then we have these two lovely people.
I am Morgan Madrigal, and I'll be the lead RA in DeSmet, and I'll be overseeing the DA staff in DeSmet.
And I'm Hannah Fenton, and I'm the lead RA in West. And we also have Tati, who's here. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Tatiana. I'm the lead DA in O'Connell.
Sweet. So, if you have any questions, we are the people to ask. If not, go above us to Stephen York, Andy Hyber, or Tom Sears. Great. This is what we're going to cover. We're going to go over your lovely smiles and your customer service, the security that you provide, what to do in a lockout, how to do guest and visitor check-in, work orders that could come up, star res, and workday. So if you haven't already, you're connecting with us right now, but you should also connect with the ADs or RDs, the assistant directors, which if you are in the RVs or West, that's going to be Stephen York. If you're in DeSmet, that's going to be Andy. And if you're in O'Connell, that's going to be Tom. You should have your student employment paperwork in. If not, just hang out after and we'll help get that situated. And we're all working right now to get your schedules created, and we should have that done within the next 24 to 48 hours for
you. All right, so first we're going to talk about customer service. So probably one of the biggest parts of your job is just to kind of be like, sorry. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Just to be like a welcoming face at the front desk. So you just want to make sure that you're attentive. A huge thing is to make eye contact when people walk into the door, be welcoming, say hello. Make sure you're present. You're definitely allowed to do homework at the desk, but if it becomes a problem where you're kind of neglecting your job, then that may be something that we have to talk to you about. Also, make sure you're super helpful, trustworthy, and you are an administrative, you're a person in a leadership position, so just make sure that you act that way as well. All right, so another part of your job is just the general security of the building. So that means making sure that people scan in when they enter the door. Don't be afraid to ask them to scan in when they walk in if they don't. And also just to make sure that like the building is generally like sound and safe. Another thing is that you guys will be mandatory reporters. So if anyone for any reason comes and talks to you that requires you to report something, you are in that position to. And if you have any more questions on that, definitely ask us about it. And then also something new this year, some COVID implications. So before every shift, you need to make sure that you are sitting at the desk with a mask the whole time. Also, you need to take your temperature before you start. So we should have little like temperature guns that you do before every shift. And then also, you guys have probably already seen the emails, but there's this app called Campus Clear. I put the little logo down here, but it's just something that you put on your phone, and you have to check that before you come into work just to make sure that you are all good. And also, if you have any symptoms or fever that day or while you're working the desk, you have to make sure to check in with health services. All right. Okay, so also you guys are a community resource. So what that means is that you can help check out different kinds of equipment. So we have ping pong, air hockey games, different things like that. So you guys will just make sure to take down names when people check that out. And also when they return it, to sanitize it. We'll have plenty of sanitary items for you guys to do that. And then also you guys will be in charge of doing some lockouts. So that's just when a resident gets locked out of their room. The more specific information will tell you when you guys sit desk your first time, just because each building has their own specific code. So we'll make sure that you guys know where that key is and what that code is to get in there. And then also you guys will have to fill out a lockout sheet, which is pretty self-explanatory. Pretty much it's just the date, the hall, their room, and their name. And then you just have them sign off on it as well. And those will be at the desk. Okay. And then also if you guys could put these numbers in your phone right now. Yeah, we'll just take a couple minutes for you guys to do that.
I mean, you could also just take a picture of them just to have them on your phone. You can always enter them later if that sounds good. But yeah, these are going to be the people that you're going to call if something goes wrong or if something happens. You need to call the chain of command.
And if you ever hear us reference like AD, that's what the professional staff is. They were called RDs last year. So that's like Andy and Tom and Steven and Eric. Your slide. I think it's me. Okay, and then I'm just going to kind of go through this lockout checklist. So first, you're going to ask for a student's name and room number, verify that they live in that space using the building roster. If the student doesn't live in the space, you will not be able to let them into another person's room. Retrieve the master key from the designated building/community location, which, like I said, we will let you know more specifically when it comes time. Walk with the resident to their room. Definitely don't give them the key. You have to be the one to unlock it. Knock on the room door and announce student housing, key into the space, and then fill out that lockout form and drop it in the express checkout box, which will be like right by the front door. And you'll notice it. It's a little black box and it says express checkout.
Awesome. So our guests and visitors policy this year has changed kind of because of COVID. And so how we're going to be handling that is no outside guests. So no guests outside of the Regis community are allowed into the dorms to kind of control and prevent a spread of COVID. So that's kind of a new policy that's new this year, and we're going to be pretty strict on that. So if that situation happens, just let them know that's because of COVID and COVID-related reasons. Registering guests. So every student can register their guest on front porch. You can also do that through StarRez, which I will show you as a DA, you can register them. But every resident should have the ability to go through front porch and register a Regis guest. So if somebody's coming from O'Connell to DeSmet, they will need to register them and have that in our system before that person can enter into the other community. And yes, they can also do it on StarRez as well. So while you're logging them in on StarRez, as I will later show, they can check in with their cards, they can scan in with their cards, so just make sure that the students have their Regis ID on them if they're trying to enter into a different building. And then another COVID addition that we are kind of, a rule that we're adding to this year is that residents are not allowed in other residents' rooms. So if you're assigned a room, the only people that are allowed in the room are the two people that are living in that space. For example, if somebody has a room in DeSmet and somebody from O'Connell wants to come into the room in DeSmet, that will not be allowed. And once again, we're just doing this to try to control the spread of COVID-19. But yeah, so that's kind of something that we're doing this year. It might be tough to enforce, but we're definitely trying to just slow the spread as much as possible, and this is one way that we see that this is possible. So if there's any questions about this policy, we'll leave space at the end to where we can revisit this. Okay, and then work orders. So here's a couple do's and don'ts. So basically what a work order is if there's something that is wrong with the building or any of the facilities, it's like a process of us or DAs or RAs entering in what is wrong, what the issue is, so that somebody in our physical plant can come through and can fix the issue. So for the do's of a work order, be specific in describing the maintenance issue, ask questions, get the most information as possible. Another one is pay attention to any space you physically check, like which side of the room. Another one is to inform your supervisor of public spaces that require maintenance, whether it's the lead RA, one of us three, or it's the AD on call for immediate issues. So just in general, try not to be too vague. So if something's wrong with a specific area, if the members of FIS plants don't know exactly what area they need to be looking at, they might miss the entire thing that needs to be fixed, which will just perpetuate the issue and lead to further things. So just make sure that you're being very specific when you're entering these forms to hopefully fix the issue. And yeah, just the last don't is basically saying, don't be vague and describe if something is only broken. Add details that allow the people in physical plant to go through and fix the problem as needed. Okay, so now I'm going to run you through StarRez, a couple things you need to know from there, Workday, and how you can like log your hours and get paid for the work that you do. And then also I'm going to show you something on Front Porch for how to submit work orders. You can move this.
Why am I,
Okay, awesome. So we'll start off with maintenance request. So if you're all not familiar, this is Regis Front Porch. So this is basically the housing website where you will find a lot of information regarding housing, and this is where you can submit a work order. You can also do it through Front or StarRez, but it's a little bit easier to go through this website. So basically, you just log in with your student Regis credentials. And then once you are into Front Porch, you can see here. So on this drop-down bar, actually you can just hit room and hall maintenance, scroll down, and it'll take you to where you can submit a new maintenance request. Click on that, and then it gives you these drop-down bars to where you can enter all the necessary information to get this problem addressed. So you're going to enter in which room you are entering in for, maybe a description about what the actual issue is, cause, if you can observe anything that might have caused the issue, that would be extremely helpful. And then any comments regarding the problem at hand, you can do that as well. So basically just filling out this form, stating what the issue is and what needs to be fixed. I believe you can do a drop down. Oh, never mind. But yeah, this form will allow you to go through that and do that. And then once you're all done, you can hit Save Job, and that will be entered into our system to where lead RAs or ADs can go through and filter that, so physical plant can submit that. So that is maintenance request. That's probably the easiest way to do it. Also, real quick, this is for those of you that don't know, this is where people can submit guest on this page. So if anybody is questioning like, where do I even submit a guest if I want to bring somebody over from O'Connell to DeSmet, you can just direct them to this page. It's pretty intuitive. You just go through, you enter in their information, and you submit it, so it'll be in our system. Okay, so that's kind of work orders and submitting guests. I can hop over to StarRez. So StarRez is basically where we're going to log people's information for who is entering into the building. This is super helpful this year because of contact tracing. If somebody were to be exposed to COVID-19, having the ability to go back and see who was actually in the building at what time is going to be super helpful on our end for just a safety aspect. And it's a big part of your job to kind of know who's in the building at which time. So basically logging into StarRez, you're going to be if you've never done it before, if you have, great. If you haven't, basically just going to the front page of StarRez. There's a bar all the way at the bottom to where you can select, and it'll basically run through about all your credentials and how to sign in. If there's an issue, we can address it. You can contact one of the lead RAs on how to get signed in. But basically, once you're in, it's kind of the hub for where we're going to be, what you guys are going to be using for your job. As you can see on this side over here, there's a bunch of different drop-down bars. The main one is going to be this front desk, and as of right now, the bar to scan in, because this computer is not hooked up to a scanner, I don't have the ability to show you how, or the drop-down bar that allows people to scan in. But basically, you will pull this up at the desk computer. So whether you're DA at whatever one of the buildings, you will log into your StarRez, and then you will have the scan in bar that you will click up here, but because I do not have one plugged in right now, it will not work. But that will allow you to allow students to scan in once they've entered the building, and that information will appear right there. And then, as mentioned before, for guests, let me just make sure. So for guests, if you wanted to go about entering a guest and they did not sign in, you can type in this information here. So I just pulled up my information. You can see it would pop up. You select whoever you're trying to sign in as a guest. You pop up here to visitor action, front desk over here, visitor arrival, and then they would scan their card here, which would prompt them with the information they need to know which guest is entering at which time. So that's just a quick run through on how to get a guest in there. And once again, just to reiterate, we really are going to try to be focused on this, especially during COVID, just so we can contact trace if somebody were to be exposed, and just so we have that ability to go back through and see who is there at which time. So that's kind of StarRez in a basic nutshell. If there's any questions, we can address those at the end, or as we get closer to your shift, you can reach out to me or any one of the other lead RAs as we keep going. But to keep this rolling, the last one. Okay, so the last one is Workday. So this is where you're going to be logging all of your hours that you work. So I just literally typed in Workday Regis into the bar, and if you click on this first tab, it should redirect you to Regis's Workday page. And on this computer, we are already signed in, so it won't prompt you to go through the whole sign-in process and everything. But basically, to do this, if you type in, if it's your first time with Workday, you're going to log in. It'll maybe ask you to submit a code or submit it via call. And you can do that all through entering your phone number into the front page, which will send you a code, which will then allow you to enter in your information to log in. Pretty intuitive. Once again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. But this is where this is the main page of Workday, and what you're going to use it for is mainly just submitting your hours. So to submit hours, you would select this time button right here, and it's going to give you the options for this week and then last week. So we'll do this every. This will be due the pay period or the week before the pay period is actually. So the Friday before the Friday you get paid, pretty much. So basically, you're going to click and you're going to select which week you want to enter your hours from, and then you're going to go to which day you worked. You're going to click on that day. You're going to go down to your hours, and if I worked 3 hours this day, I would hit 3, and then I would hit enter. And then once I had all my hours for each day of the week, and last week, so the complete pay period, I would then enter my time. And I just don't want to do it for you.
That's fine. There's a big enter button at the end.
Quick add. Okay, so it prompts you to this page, and you literally just go through the buttons until it says that you've been approved. And basically, what that means is it's sent to your supervisor, and your supervisor will be the one to push those hours through to just double check that everything is good to go. And then once your supervisor pushes those hours through, you should get an email saying that those hours were completed, and you should be good for the next pay period. So that is pretty much it. Let me go back to, so that's Workday, how to submit a maintenance request, and also StarRez. So I believe that was pretty much all that we had for you at the current time. If you have any questions, you could please direct these to any of these emails that you see on the screen right here. Tom and O'Connell, Andy DeSmet, Stephen and Westall, and also Stephen and the RBs. And you can take a picture of this as well, and you can email, reach out to any of these people if you have questions. But I guess now, yes, I guess now if anybody has any questions, now would be a great time to kind of ask the three of us, and we could help you out.
When we have our first day, will there be someone there to train us as well?
There will not. Your first day, it'll just be you arriving to the desk. But one of us, there will always be a lead RA on call. And a bunch of RAs walking through the building that'll be doing the same thing that you guys will as for scanning people in. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to one of the lead RAs or an assistant director on call, and we could definitely help you guys out.
And there's a number for the lead RA on call, just like right at the front desk. So if you have a question, or if we're not there to show you where the lockbox is, or just anything of that nature, you can call that number, and that will either contact one of us or the AD on call. Looks like we have a question in the chat. How do you get to the StarRez main page again? Great question. It will be linked on your computer at the front desk. So it'll already be like in the bookmarks. So you'll be good to go on that. How will being a desk assistant work if we work in a different building than the one our dorm is in?
So with that, I believe that's a COVID related question. So you will still be able to go to that other dorm and still work your shift there, just because it is a public space and you are following social distance guidelines. So you should be good to go. Yes, yeah, and just making sure that you're following up that app to let us know if you're feeling any symptoms, and also taking your temperature just to make sure that we're as safe as possible.
When should we expect to receive our schedules, and when does working begin? So working will begin Monday, I believe. Yeah. So this Monday, which is when the pay period starts for this semester. And so not everyone has gotten back to us with schedules. So if you have not, make sure that you contact either Morgan, me, or Austin with your schedule. And that should be out within the next 24 to 48 hours. We're trying to get that out as soon as we can for you guys. Is this the only training we will get? Yes.
Yes, this is, but you do have, so you have all of our contact information. So if you ever have any questions, if you don't want to ask them now, you can reach out to us via email, or like we said, you can always call that lead RA on call number, and we can ask any questions. You can ask any questions that you might have as you get started.
Is there any way to check and see if we're missing anything for student employment documents? I would probably email your supervisor for that. So if you're in O'Connell, email Tom. If you're in DeSmet, email Andy. And if you're in West, email Steven. And just make sure that you're all signed up for that. They would be the ones to know that answer. So, yes.
And then To clarify the guest policy, are we supposed to enforce them being in common area when visiting? Do we have to go up with them? So you will not have to go up with them to their room. The common area, I believe that right now the cap is 4 people per common area. But just as long as everybody's following that 6 feet guideline, social distancing guideline, and wearing masks, and everybody's behaving properly as they should during a pandemic, there shouldn't be any issues, and we're not going to expect you to go and follow people around and make sure that they're following every single rule.
You can definitely remind them that they can only be in common spaces and they can't be in each other's rooms. Just to clarify, only that resident of that room can be in that room. So you can remind them, but also you guys aren't RAs, so you're not really enforcing policy. But I mean, if it's a problem, you can definitely let us know, and then the RAs will come in and handle that. In terms of the RVs, what do we do in case of a fire alarm? Austin?
RVs.
Yeah.
So if you can hear me, with fire alarms in the RVs, you'll hear a wonderful beeping noise while you're sitting at the desk in the RV Commons. And then you should go confirm that the fire alarm is going off by walking outside, hearing where it's coming from, going to the unit, knock on the door if the people aren't already outside, and make sure everybody is outside of the unit. And then call campus safety and tell them, like, let's say there's a fire alarm going off in 303. Just say, hi, campus safety, this is DA, whoever you are. I have a fire alarm in RV 303, and they'll come and help you out.
Could you guys hear Austin? Give me a thumbs up somewhere. Cool.
Okay. And if we need a shift covered, do we just let the AD know once we've found a replacement? Yes. So what I did for the SMET, I think a lot of you guys have joined it, is I created a group chat via GroupMe to where we can communicate sharing or swapping shifts. So if there's, for whatever reason, you can't make a shift, you can communicate in those group chats, and I believe the other staffs will have something similar to where you can just swap those. And if it's in there, just letting me know that the shift is covered and everything's good to go. And that's about all you need to do for that.
Also, if you are wanting to request time off, or you can't make a shift, make sure that you email the lead DA or the lead RA, and also that you CC the professional staff. Just because I know there's a section on Workday that says request time off. Just make sure that you guys email us that, and then also if you want to send it in the group chat too, that'd be super helpful.
Okay. And then next question. Okay, so how do we enforce guests not being in room? Is it our job to enforce that, or do we just say that the rules when they sign them in? So that's more of an RA job. We're not really asking you to enforce policy, especially when it comes to not allowing other people to go in the rooms. Obviously, if you see something on the floor near the desk, you can definitely say that, hey, because of COVID, we're actually not allowing people to enter into the rooms. But we're not going to ask you to go through the dorms and enforce every policy. That's more of an RA, lead RA type job, more of a policy enforcement.
This one. Okay. Cato, am I saying that right? Saying the name right? Great question. The question is, are we expected to be competent right away after this 30 minutes of training? Great question. No, you don't have to know everything. I think that this information gives you the basics. But once you get to the job, if you're still confused on what to do, it's pretty self-explanatory. We can send out this PowerPoint too, which pretty much outlines everything. But like we already said, if you have any questions, just call the lead RA or the AD on call, and you should be good. Yeah.
Have them, if y'all can hear me, when you get on duty for the very first time, you check in, call the lead RA, and one of us will be available to answer any questions or concerns you have immediately. And if you need any refreshers on especially how to get the keys out of the lockout room and deal with any policy violations.
Be happy to help.
Yeah, we know this sucks. We know it's different, but this is what we're able to do. So,
Awesome. And then Cato asked again, are members of the same hall allowed to enter into each other's dorm rooms? And that is a no. So just the 2 people that are living in the dorm room, those are the only people allowed in that room. And once again, it's just because of our social distancing guidelines. If 3 people or 4 people enter into a room, it's just not going to be following those guidelines. And it's all under a lens of trying to prevent COVID as much as possible. So, and that's across, I think, the Smet, O'Connell, and West as well.
Yes, there will be a group me for other buildings as well. So if you did not send your phone number to your lead RA, make sure that you send that to them.
And then is there any dress code aside from Regis's while we are on shift? Do we need to wear name tags or anything? I don't believe so. I know last year we did something trying to wear a t-shirt, but that might have been for different work studies. So just as long as it's not crazy out of the ordinary, you should be good to go.
So once again, to confirm your documents, just reach out to the AD. So that's either Tom, Andy, or Stephen, and just shoot them an email and just be like, hey, do I have all of my documents in for being a DA? And they should be able to let you know that.
Hey, Austin, you want to speak on RVs, how that is going to work with having people in people's rooms?
Yeah. Hello again, everyone. So with the guest policy in the RVs, so no off-campus guests are allowed whatsoever. However, if they are from Regis University, obviously they do not have to check in at the desk. There's no way to control people coming in and out of the residence village. However, you can only have 10 people within an RV, and they have to be in the common area, so like the kitchen space of the RV. Now, obviously, you can't control what they do once they're inside of the unit, but that's just how the policy has been written. And pretty much the biggest thing is if you see more than 10 people in a unit, that's when you need to address it.
And then also for the question about allowing people in the same suite, that's something that's going to be really hard to regulate. I think if you see like a bunch of people going into a room that's just very clearly not theirs, like you can shoot them a reminder, but that's not really up for you guys. You don't really have to regulate that or enforce that specific rule, but yeah, it's just the residents of that room that are allowed in there.
Okay, it looks like Jade asked a question. Are off-campus students allowed to enter the dorms as guests or only residential students? So only residential students are allowed to enter into the dorms. We're not allowing off-campus students to enter into the dorms just to control the spread of COVID-19.
Okay, and then, okay, Jade, if you never received an email from HR, are you good to work? I would just shoot them another email, and like I said, just email your AD just to make sure that everything's in order and that you're ready to go. And also that in Workday, you're like confirmed as an employee. That's another way to find out if you have the job. And then also for O'Connell scheduling, I don't know, Tatiana, do you want to speak to that? Has Tom talked to you about if he's making that schedule or if you're making that schedule?
Yeah, I'm in the process of making it right now. I have not finished yet, but I'll make sure to get that going as soon as possible. Definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So how long hour-wise are shifts? So we try to keep shifts in like the 4-hour range. There might be a little bit longer, maybe a 5. But that's kind of where we like to stick with for the max at one period of time. Obviously, we're okay with the exception. So if you have any concerns, once again, feel free to reach out and we can we can address those individually.
I know for my staff personally, our availability was kind of shorter. So the shifts, I don't know if anyone pushes 4 hours. So I think that most of our shifts as of now are like 3 hours at the longest at a time. Is there plexiglass? Yes, there is a plexiglass shield at the front desk. How many days per week will we work? That depends on your personal hours and also the availability of your community. So right now we're trying to work around getting you guys as many hours as you want, and then also being mindful of how many hours your other coworkers are trying to get. And so you guys will know when we send out our schedules. Is there a max weekly hour? I think your max weekly hour depends on your work study award. Yeah.
Yeah, so we don't want you to run. So you get a set allotment of how much money you can make for the entire semester. So we don't obviously want you to run through all of that at the very beginning of the semester. We prefer if you would spread it out throughout the entire semester, and we will do that via scheduling and make sure that you have the right amount of hours per week, so you're not running into that issue of your award running out too quickly.
And we did record this presentation, so we will probably be sending that out to you guys as well, just so you can watch it over if you need. Okay, once you don't have more money, do you not just have a job? Yeah, so once you run through your work study award, they'll let us know, like, if you're nearing your work study award, we'll kind of start to like thin out your hours, so that you can like still be earning regularly throughout the weeks. Yeah, but yes, once you run out of your work study money, like that's the money allotted to you, and so that's all that you have for the semester. Will this job connect to next semester? I think so.
If you have the same work study allowance, then yeah.
If you have the same work study allowance. Oh.
So the next one is if a student is ignoring you or not complying with COVID rules, we contact the RA, right? Yeah, definitely do that.
If it's like during the day, call the RD on call.
Yeah.
If we're going to be in class.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know if you guys heard that, but if it's during the day, probably call the RD on call, because we are students as well. We'll probably be in class, so we may not be able to get it right away. But yeah, so and then if it's at the hours of 8 to 8, you can call the RA on call as well.
I mean, they'll be at the desk, but
no, that's true. All right. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I think when in doubt, if you guys are confused, just call the lead or call the AD.
All right. So if anybody has any other questions, feel free to stick around.
I think if someone enters without wearing a mask, just remind them like, hey, you can't be in here without a mask. Just remind them to put one on. And I think that we will have some disposable masks at the desk. So if they say, oh, I forgot my mask, just hand them one and have them put it on. And if, once again, they're not complying, just call up or get their name and yeah. All right. Well, if you guys don't have any more questions, you can exit the Zoom. We'll stick around for some more minutes, just if you have any more questions. And also, if there's something that comes up later, definitely feel free to either shoot us an email or a text. I think you guys should have all of our contact info. But yeah, thanks for coming. yeah, let us know if you have any more questions.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, and look forward to seeing you guys soon. And good luck with moving.